That's the toughest thing in the NBA. It's to like get a star to go from star to superstar. This trade does that. You get that tier one clear-cut superstar guy in.
Yeah. And
you only relinquish 2 players. That's the on-court product would be insane.
On Friday, as we were recording with Ty, that's when the report came out from Henry Abbott of True Hoop that Damian Lillard planned to request a trade in the coming days. Shortly after we hopped off came the interview with Chris Haynes of Yahoo Sports, in which he did everything but request a trade. He made it very clear that the status quo is no longer good enough for him. He said the loss to Denver in particular is where he realized, I want to get this quote exactly right. He said, "I just walked away from that really disappointed. I was like, man, this just isn't going to work." He also said, we're at the stage as a team where all, not just me, not just my teammates, not just our new coaching staff, the front office, everybody in this organization must look in the mirror because we've constantly come up short. We have to look in the mirror and say, I have to be better because whatever it is we're doing is not working and it's not giving us the shot to compete on the level that we want to compete on. So that was just a giant middle finger to Neil O'Shea, which is a completely deserved thing at this point.
Yeah, for a variety of reasons.
Yeah, right, correct. He did speak with reporters at Team USA practice later Friday and made it clear that he thinks he's going to be in a Blazers uniform this upcoming season. He said, right now, I'm not sure what I'm going to do. What I can say is my intentions and my heart have always been set on being in a Trailblazers uniform for my entire career. That's typical Dame. That's exactly I'm not sure what I'm going to do is new for him, but he has been very clear over the years. He doesn't want to leave Portland. Right. He's loyal. He loves it there. He's never hedged to the extent that he just did when he said, but I think over time you want to win it all, and I want to win it all in a Trailblazers uniform, but we all have to be making strides toward that.
Do you think that article was written by Dame himself and then just delivered to Haynes?
It felt that way.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Chris Haynes and Dame go back. Like, if you want sourced news about Portland, Chris Haynes is the guy to do it. So they go back a long time, and Dame trusts him. So if, again, like, when that trade request comes, Chris is going to be the one to break it, most likely.
It's not going to be Vogue or Shams. Nope, you're right.
Yeah, or he's going to have the quotes about why he's doing it and where he wants to go, whatever the case may be. He's the one who got the interview where he said he wanted Kidd or Billups in the first place. But given all of that, the True Hoop thing, the Haynes interview, the comments from Team USA, where do you think that leaves Portland? Like, how should Portland be approaching this offseason now knowing Dame is clearly not happy? He hasn't requested a trade publicly. We don't know what's happened behind the scenes, but hasn't yet requested one publicly. But he sounds more uncertain about his future with the Blazers than he ever has before.
See, this is where I wish that my audio mixer had a sound of an explosion.
Yeah.
I mean, this should be this should be all she wrote. I think it's time, regardless whether he asks out or not. I think, and I realize some people will actually find that comment ridiculous because they're thinking if he doesn't ask out, let's just milk that situation for all it's worth. And fair, but like the trajectory right now is not going to go the right way. Everything is working against them.
Right.
It's pretty clear as well through other interviews that he's done or sourced content with Haynes that he's also very much interested in seeing the rest of the roster get flipped over. So he's 31 as well. If you're expecting a roster to go over a significant turnover, you're probably going to have to wait around just a little bit before you get the chemistry down and you can make a finals run, for example, because what kind of upgrades are out there when your best trade assets outside of Dame himself is CJ McCollum, who, and that's not to speak ill of CJ, I really like CJ, but that's the one guy you can get something potentially good from, and he's even on a contract that isn't necessarily fantastic. So I just wonder, where is all that trade upside? Like, Norman Powell would have to be a sign and trade because he's a free agent. And look, if a team out there offers him a good deal right off the bat, he'll take that. He's unrestricted, so the Blazers can't even do anything to keep him on board. I don't know, man. This seems like if there's a time for him to look at other possibilities, it's now.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I think for him, it makes sense because I don't see any way that Portland retools its roster and becomes a championship contender.
Right.
I just don't think they have the pieces they need. They've given up too much. They've missed too many times. Like, every team makes mistakes.
Yep.
You know, they're not, I don't want to like portray Neil Olshey as some bumbling idiot who's screwed up 100 times. Like, every team screws up 100 times. But at a certain point, those mistakes add up and they compound over time.
Yeah.
So the Allen Crabbe contract, the Evan Turner contract, the Myers Leonard contract, trading 2 firsts for Robert Covington, signing Derrick Jones to this, the 2-year non-taxpayer last year, they add up over time. Zach Collins getting hurt sucks, but they traded 2 picks they could have used on like John Collins and Kyle Kuzma or something, or like Derek White,
right?
And he's just been hurt and they haven't gotten much out of him. But right now they are at a pretty natural pivot point.
Yeah. Because
Covington's heading into the last year of his deal. Nurkic is heading into the last year of his deal. If Jones picks up that player option, he's only signed for 1 more year. The only players they have under contract beyond this season are Dame, CJ, and Nasir Little.
Yeah.
So this is like a completely blank slate if you want to rebuild. But you run the risk if you're like trying to make Dame happy and you're trying to maximize your win now window. You're going to have to overpay Norman Powell to keep him around. You could keep Covington and Nurkic, but then or you could try to trade them. Maybe you get something that fits better around them. Maybe you could beef up your defense a little bit. But both of those guys are expiring after this year. So if you don't trade either one of them, you could lose them for nothing. They're already not going to give Zach Collins the qualifying offer, so he's going to be a restricted free agent. Like, I just don't see a way in which they retool to the extent they need to get on the level of LA, Denver, Phoenix, right, Milwaukee, Brooklyn. So it's like, I'm with you. Now, even if Dame hasn't asked for the trade, it just feels like now is the time to do it. Because if you try to retool your roster, if you overpay Norman Powell to keep him there, and then Dame requests a trade in 6 months or a year, now you're just stuck with Norman Powell. Like, what good is that going to do when you don't have Damian Lillard? Like, he doesn't make sense for your timeline anymore.
Agreed.
If you trade Dame, then you could just tear this entire thing down and trade CJ, trade Covington, trade Nurkic. Don't re-sign Powell.
Right.
Like, you have nothing left, and it's going to be a really bleak year for you, but you'll survive.
And you'll have picks. If you send out Dame, you'll have plenty of picks.
Yeah, you'll have every pick under the sun. Like, you'll have picks for the next 7 years. Like, that's I mean, that's another thing. If you're trading Covington, McCollum, Nurkic, and you're trying to get an upgrade, you can't put picks in that package. If you, knowing what you know about Dame and that he could leave in a year, you can't, unless they're like heavily protected, lottery protected, top 20 protected, maybe.
Right.
But you can't give up a top 5 protected pick or something like that.
The Blazers had no draft picks this year.
Yeah. And they have given up 4 of their next 5 second rounders too, right?
Yeah, let's see.
Yeah. 21, 23, 24, 25. All gone. They have nothing.
No.
They have nothing to rebuild around even. Like, they are starting from complete scratch here if they do trade him.
I can't help but ask, and of course, I'm not saying that the Pistons should do this at all. But I mean, look, Jeremy Grant is at like what 27, I want to say.
Yeah.
Dame is 31. Like, that aligns.
Oh God.
But no, I wouldn't do it. But I think it's a fun thought exercise. If anything, like, what would the Dame Grant duo do in the East? Second round max, maybe.
Yeah, maybe,
okay,
right? Yeah, maybe.
I don't know, but either way, I mean, if you can include picks this year as long as you then do it after the free agency period, and then they just carry over. But you're right, like, moving forward, it would have to be draft picks. I don't see why the Blazers would take on like prime guys. That just doesn't make sense. Like, established players for Dame, it should be a non-starter. Like, rookies, draft picks, young guys with upside who are extremely young, go for it. Hell, Orlando's been missing a point guard for years. They have 2 lottery picks and a lot coming as well. So, I mean, why not? And they have young guys. Cole Anthony. Yeah.
Jonathan Isaac,
Wendell Carter Jr.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think they should do it, but they could put together a package if they were really interested. Markelle Fultz. Back to the Pacific Northwest.
That's where he left his jump shot, right?
Right, yeah, maybe he'll find it.
Oh God, that's mean. Sorry, Markelle. No, but no, I hear you. But see, that's actually an interesting discussion too. Like, we just brought up Detroit and Orlando, 2 teams that have just sucked for a long time. And both of us are going, no, they shouldn't. They should rather go with the picks.
Yeah.
Is that feels off to me that we both came to that conclusion given how good Dame is? Or is that just because of his age? Is that what's scaring us a little bit, I think?
No, I just think it's the age and like the timeline that he's on.
Right.
I mean, that's let's circle back to that in a minute too, because that's another part of this conversation is if they do decide to trade Dame, do you have to take if he comes up with a list and says, I only want to go to, the Warriors, the Lakers, the Heat, whatever.
Right.
Do you have to oblige him and only take offers from those teams? Or are you, as Portland, just trying to get the best deal possible and you don't really care where he wants to go?
Yeah, that's a tough one. Our DM group definitely had 150 DM exchange about this.
Yeah, right. Which is why I bring it up, because it was more controversial than I expected it to be.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the thing. I think you want to do right by him to a certain extent. I don't think you cater to him. I don't think if Dame gives you a list of one team, you just go, okay, so what's the best deal we can get for that one team? Like, I don't think that's in play. I don't think that's fair, because then you're just playing against a stacked deck. And that's not... I support player empowerment, but I also think that at some point, if players with plenty of years left on their contracts can just dictate their next moves, then what are we doing? Then we might as well get rid of trades and free agency. I mean, then it's a soccer system all over, which, I mean, I don't like that. I think there's a reason why people are upset at big clubs over here in Europe when it comes to soccer, because they can just buy the best players every single time. So I think you need to make sure that the system still upholds. There's a reason that the NBA has parity. It is because they want to make sure that every team has a shot. So I listen to Dame and I go, where do you want to go? And if he gives me a list of one team, I'm going to tell him, expand that list. Like, I can't work with. Give me 5, 6, 7, 8 teams at the very least, because look, this is not going to fly. We're going to have to find some middle ground here. And so the one thing obviously is, do you do this to satisfy his agency? Because what if that agency has clients down the line? You can't think like that all the time. You just can't. And you're an NBA organization. Your goal is to win. And if you're spending half your time thinking about how to please agencies, I think that's a difficult balancing act. Not saying that, you know, there isn't that whole subsection of you scratch my back, I scratch yours. I get it, but you still have to work under what's best for you in the long term. Otherwise, what are you doing?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would use it as like kind of a tiebreaker, or I would maybe even take a slightly worse deal if it was like Minnesota versus Miami, let's say. And Dame wants to go to Miami, doesn't want to go to Minnesota. I'm not saying Miami and Minnesota can.
Right. It's a theoretical, yeah.
Yeah, because Miami can, but
they cannot.
But if they could, and I wanted, because I do think you have to take maybe not the agency in mind, but just your perception around the league. Like the last thing you want to do is piss Damian Lillard off to the extent that he goes, burns every bridge on his way out of town and tells people don't sign with this team moving forward. You can't trust them. You can't trust ownership. Who cares about Neil O'Shea? He's not going to survive this rebuild anyway. Like, you can't trust, and maybe they sell the team and like it's just totally start from scratch. But until they do, and if they're trying to sell the team and you're pissing off Damian Lillard and he's telling players not to sign there, team valuation goes down. So there's a lot of competing interests in mind, but I do think you have to at least slightly factor it in. But I'm with you. Like, I wouldn't take, if it's like the Lakers are offering Kyle Kuzma and a pick and
nothing else,
some other team.
Right.
Yeah, New Orleans is offering 9 first-round picks and Brandon Ingram.
Right.
You take New Orleans' offer and you say, have fun, eat some gumbo.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I totally agree with you that if it comes down to maybe a single protected first-round pick or something of that sort, you can sacrifice that if it's the reputation. Although, when you think about it, the Blazers have a get-out-of-jail-free card here. Because let's say O'Shea makes that deal, and afterwards, he's fired. There's an organizational overhaul. Then that new management team can come in and go, oh, we didn't make that trade. We're trying to flip the page. So if players and agencies are going, well, you screwed us. Like, nope, we didn't. Former guys did. We're new guys.
Right.
So there is, like, that I think plays in, because I know for a fact that there are a lot of players and agencies that just did not want part of the Garbacks pools, for example, who are now very much open to working with Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley. So again, perception can change based on who is in charge in front offices. So like that could be applied. That could be a smart play. Just, no, Neil, we're going to give you a golden handshake on your way out when you trade Dame to the best return. Then we're going to fire you, and then we're going to pivot into being, a rebranded franchise.
Right. And you have to ask, maybe that is the play. Like, do you want Neil O'Shea making this deal if you're not going to have him oversee the rebuild?
Oh,
maybe
that's
the counterpoint.
Yeah.
But maybe that's the counterpoint is, I don't know. I mean, you can go both ways there. Like,
yeah,
because if you want O'Shea to oversee it, then he might, knowing he is just on not even the hot seat, like the volcano inferno seat, he might try to trade Dame for guys who can help win now. Whereas I'm with you. If you're trading Dame, gives a damn. Like, every pick, all young players, like, let's OKC this thing up, baby.
Yeah.
Like, you gotta just start from square one, absolutely. So, does O'Shea have the franchise's best long-term interest in mind, or is he just trying to save his own ass?
Oh, the latter, for sure. I mean, I don't know. When you said that, did he take a swig of water? I don't know. Look, at the end of the day, man, I like Dame. So I also want to see him happy. That's not, I mean, I just have to speak on what teams should be trying to accomplish. Obviously, a player would try to direct his own, create his own path, rather. And that's admirable. Like, I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying that I don't understand that. Of course I do. But it's a team's responsibility to ultimately put the best product on the floor. Maybe not immediately, But 5 years down the line, you're rebuilding. And if there's a deal there that just gives you a plethora of picks, young guys with tremendous upside, and there's a different deal that you're sort of forced into where you're getting like a couple of in-prime players and protected first-rounders, what the hell does that do for you? Then that 5-year rebuild is going to take 10. That's a lot to ask for an entire fan base and entire organization. Then that rebuild is going to start paying off when Dame is in his 40s. Right, at that point, you just so I think we've reached the level of absurdity when it comes to, you know, coddling players. I fully agree that they need to be taken care of. I fully agree that they're the main product. I fully agree that they need to be prioritized and their feelings should be considered. Absolutely. But you also can't do it at the compromise of your own organization 10 years down the line. Like, you just can't. That's just running a bad business.
So let's get into some potential destinations. Again, just hypothetically, if they are to at least listen to offers. Not even definitely trade him this offseason, but like entertain it, or don't hang up immediately if teams come calling.
Right.
Who fits the bill of a team that should be trying to get Dame and everyone should be trying to get Dame, but who has the right mix of assets for Portland's perspective?
Charlotte.
Oh.
A deal starting with LaMelo Ball.
Wow.
That's interesting. That gets them into the conversation immediately. If the first thing that is said in that phone call is LaMelo Ball is on the table. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm listening. I realized that the Hornets would have to do a lot of finagling around that because it would eventually lead with a core of like Dame, Gordon Hayward, and they'll probably retain one of PJ Washington and Miles Bridges. I don't think both, which is, it's not bad per se, but like you'd still need to add something to that to make them, you know, an Eastern Conference Eastern Conference Finals candidate, for example. But you can throw in picks in that situation. There are young guys on this roster you can throw in. There are hell, if you want to, you can even add in Terry Rozier and like reroute him somewhere else, so you get additional draft compensation somewhere from a different team. Like, there's just so many variables here that you can play at. But I think the Charlotte Hornets actually makes more sense than a lot of other teams. Like, for example, people are talking about Miami. People are talking about these major market brands. Like, don't tell me that the Miami Heat can outbid the Charlotte Hornets, because they can't.
Yeah, I mean, if LaMelo is on the table, definitely not.
Assuming that, of course. I mean, that is what everything stands on. And I understand LaMelo has a great future ahead of him. I'm not saying otherwise. He was Rookie of the Year for a reason. He had an outstanding first year. But, I mean, it's Dame. That's the one, like, that's a guy you at least have a conversation about internally to flip LaMelo for, if anything.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the question from Charlotte's perspective is the roster that will be left,
right,
with if you trade LaMelo, trade Terry, trade one of Bridges in Washington, trade all your picks, the leftover of Hayward, Lillard, Bridges, Washington, is that enough to compete right now to justify the cost of giving up LaMelo in particular?
Well, they have Devontae Graham, who's a restricted free agent, and because his salary was a minimum, his cap hold is virtually nothing. Like, yeah, it was increased because he made, what's the start of the minutes criteria? Yeah. So what do you have that?
I think it's 4.7 million.
But that's chump change.
Yeah.
That's nothing.
He'll earn more than that.
Right.
Whatever his next contract is.
Exactly. So they can go into restricted free agency. They can re-sign him. They can do a sign and trade and figure something out of that of that nature to fill out that roster a little bit. They will have some opportunities. But yeah, it won't be a year one loaded roster example, but they will have something. And if the one they left over of PJ Washington and Miles Bridges, that person could also get flipped for something. I'm not saying it's perfect. I'm not saying it's perfect at all. I'm just saying that if a team out there has the balls to do something that could be interesting, it would be the Hornets. Like they can come in and muck things up if they don't care about any list that Dame produces to the Trailblazers. They could come in and really just mess things up for everyone else by putting that offer on the table.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I don't think it would be smart of them to do it. But...
Maybe not. Maybe not. I'm just saying that could be... Like, they're desperate, right? I mean, they're desperate to make something out of this. They want to make the playoffs. They want to be relevant.
They shouldn't be that... After landing LaMelo, the
right.
desperation should be gone.
I get that, but you know how the NBA works, though. Sometimes it's the instant gratification. Like Gordon Hayward fits Dame's timeline as well. Again, not saying they're a realistic candidate, but I do think that they can present an offer that is very, very interesting. And I think we need to consider that. We need to consider teams that can make the offer. Whether or not they should or whether or not they will, that's an entirely different conversation. But in terms of what Portland would be looking for, that kind of offer would fit the bill.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can look at, like the Cavaliers could offer... Shit, you can do Sexton and Garland at that point. Or Sexton and number 3 pick.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Kevin Love, just for the salary match.
Oh, see that now we're thinking. Now we're thinking. See, like if some of these teams are willing to get in on the action by completely ignoring what's on Dame's list, they could make this interesting. They could walk away with Damian Lillard, who has another 4 years left on his contract. And you know what? Dame is not the type of dude who won't show up to training camp.
No. Yeah. He would make these teams better, but he's not going to be happy. Like if his goal is, I want to compete for a championship, and the Charlotte Hornets or the Cleveland Cavaliers trade away most of their pieces to get him,
I agree.
He will be no closer to competing for a championship. He will be further away, most likely. Maybe closer because they're in the East. That is the only reason he would be closer.
So now you said it, the East. That is why I brought it up as well, because I think that's the interesting part. The Eastern Conference is still a little bit volatile. Like, you can still do some things. And I actually don't think that a Hornets team with Dame and Gordon Hayward and one of Bridges or Washington and whoever you flip them for, or whoever you flip Devontae Graham for, I don't think that's a team that's necessarily bad. I mean, of course, it depends on who you get. But if that's a second round team right off the bat, that's longer than what they did this year in Portland. Yeah.
I guess that is one way to look at it. That's true.
No, I get it. He wants to win a ring. Well, Bryan, at the end of the day, and this is something we need to talk about, there's one champion every single year. Like, you can't satisfy 20 superstars. Or superstar. Like, you can't satisfy 2 full all-star rosters of guys, all who wants to win a ring. You can put them in the best situation possible on certain teams, sure, but that's it. Like, you can't, there is not a situation out there that's realistic that guarantees Damian Lillard a finals berth next year.
No, not guarantees. No.
Right.
Increases his chances, definitely.
Absolutely. But, so let's talk about that. Like Denver, for example.
Yeah.
Yeah. Murray and what?
Michael Porter. You have to include both.
So the primary 2 will be Jokic and Lillard, which instantaneously becomes the best duo in the NBA. Sorry, LeBron and AD, but just in terms of playing style, that would be the best, like, from a strategic point of view, would be the best duo in the entire league. And then from there you have Gordon. What else?
Will Barton, if you re-sign him.
Yeah, Will Barton, if you that's true. Monte Morris is still locked up, so that's something.
Yeah. I mean, like, I think Denver would try to make it one of Murray or Michael Porter and not both. But Murray, given the injury that he's coming off of, makes it a lot more difficult to take Michael Porter out of that. Maybe Portland doesn't want to pay for Michael Porter's next deal. Maybe they say, okay, well, instead of Porter, we'll take Murray, Gordon, we'll take Monte Morris as well, and we'll take every pick you want.
or they reroute. I mean, the rerouting thing is real. Like a team will reroute players that like they might ask for Murray and the trade value of Michael Porter and say, we may not want Michael Porter, but we know he has more trade value than Aaron Gordon. So those are the two guys that we, in quotation mark here, want, but we're going to reroute MPJ somewhere else and gets draft picks, for example.
Right.
Oh, that's interesting. What team in the lottery will trade their pick from MPJ this year?
Toronto should consider it.
Oh, Toronto. That would be fun. That's the 4th overall pick. So if you get Jamal Murray and the 4th overall pick, plus, you know, a series of draft pick from Denver's own stock, if they even have, I don't even know their draft pick situation.
Well, that's what I was about to bring up. Yeah. They owe a lotto protected pick to OKC in 2023. It stays, if it doesn't convey, it stays lotto protected 24, right. 25. If it doesn't convey by 25, it's 2 second rounders. And then they owe their 2025 pick, or at least whenever the OKC pick conveys, they owe a top 5 protected pick to Orlando. So they are out. They can trade this year's pick. They can't trade 22, 24, 26, and they can't trade 27 unless they get the protections removed on both of them. So they are very limited in terms of what picks they can offer, and I think that's where this deal falls short.
Unless, of course, that you reroute MPJ for a draft package of some sort.
Yeah, like maybe you can get Orlando to give you both 5 and 8.
For MPJ.
Like
yeah.
Yeah.
Hell, that could work. I mean, you would have to have insane faith in that Jamal Murray is going to return 100% to what he used to be.
Yeah. And you'd have to value, I mean, because there's what we talked about with Was a few episodes ago. There's a clear top 4. So if you get number 4 from Toronto, you know, that would work. But if you don't, if you're doing Denver and you're not getting number 4, you get number 5 instead. Like, do you have the same faith in Kuminga or Barnes that you do in whoever falls in the Green Mobley Suggs tier? Like, can that guy be, right. Can Jonathan Kuminga be the best player on a rebuilding team? On a good rebuilding team, I should say?
No, no, I don't think so, but no, you're right. I mean, the top 4, after the post top 4, that's where it drops off, which actually does make the number 4 selection from Toronto probably more valuable than 5-8 in some respects. Even though you do
combined, you mean?
Yeah, even though you do get 2 bites of the apple, though.
Yeah, but it sounds like, I mean, what Was was saying was, you know, that top 4 is so set, and then it just seems like, you know, it seems like Barnes and Kuminga, most evaluators have them 5, 6 in some order. Maybe there's, you know, maybe one of them falls to 7, but like they are clearly in a tier right below these other guys. But then it sounds like from 8 to 14, it's just like, they're all about the same. Like the value you're getting at 8 might not be significantly more than what you're getting at 14.
Just draft Sengun at 5 and I'm okay with it.
Yeah, there you go. There you go.
No, but I mean, so I'm curious as to your point of view, because aren't you also a little bit tired whenever we hear about, you know, stars getting traded? It's always the same teams brought up. It's always Lakers, Miami. It's like, I would just like to see a team come out of nowhere with a strong offer. Like,
well, I don't know.
Roll the dice.
Like, what can the Lakers offer?
Oh, they can't. It's just like, that's the thing. They can't. But it's still the team that's get regurgitated every single time, right? The Knicks too. Like, what can the Knicks possibly offer? I get RJ Barrett is good, but is he a centerpiece of a big ass trade for his superstar like D?
Right. I mean, the Knicks can offer. They have the Dallas pick this year, the top 10 protected Dallas pick, and then their own picks. That it doesn't look like they owe any of their own picks. So they have all of their own picks.
Right.
They can do Barrett. They can do Kevin Knox, Toppin quickly. Mitchell Robinson if they pick up his team option. But again, where does that leave that? Like, you know, they have cap space, so they have to worry about salary matching. So they could have Julius Randle, Dame.
Yeah, but I don't love that deal for Portland, though.
Yeah, I mean, like Knox does nothing for me.
Right.
Knox does not have.
He does nothing for New York either.
Fair point. Toppin is like worth a flyer, but I don't think like. Who do you think has more trade value in a vacuum right now, Quickly or Toppin?
Oh, it should be Quickly.
That would be my guess as well. I mean, both of them would be going in this deal. It's irrelevant for the purposes here, but I don't see a way if you're in New York that you don't give up RJ Barrett, because I agree. There's Quickly, Toppin in every pick under the sun. Some team can come over the top and beat that.
Right.
And like Miami, okay,
Tyler Hero?
Maybe Tyler Hero might not be off limits anymore. I don't know. He was for James Harden, but maybe they've finally seen the light. So like, cool. Tyler Hero, Precious Achiuwa, KZ Okpala. Okay, great. Like, negotiate the sign and trade with Kendrick Nunn. You're probably going to try to keep Duncan Robinson. Like, they don't want to give up Bam or Jimmy, but they also owe. I think they're out a couple first rounders as well, right? Yeah, they're out this year. They have a swap going to Houston next year. Lotto protected 23 to OKC as well. All of their second rounders are gone, so Miami's like out of picks. The Lakers traded everything for Anthony Davis, Kyle Kuzma, and KCP, and whatever few remaining picks they have. That's not going to do anything for Portland.
And I hate to bring up a big market, but one team that's also being brought up a lot, Golden State, because they have those. I just don't know if Andrew Wiggins, James Wiseman, and the 7th overall.
7 and 14. Yeah.
I don't know if that does anything.
It shouldn't.
Right? No, it's not for Dame at least. Like, it can do something. I don't think it can do Dame.
Yeah.
Like, so sure, you can add in Jordan Poole, who's actually pretty good, but...
Yeah, sure. I mean, they have some, like, intriguing young guys, but none of them move the needle for...
Yeah, no. All right,
so I feel like the most common thing that we will hear is Philly, just because Ben Simmons is so widely available. Yeah. Do you think they can actually assemble a competitive offer for Damian Lillard?
I want them to, because about 3 years ago, on this very podcast, I actually said I would rather see Damian Lillard in Philly over Ben Simmons to pair with Joel Embiid. And I don't remember your reaction. I don't remember if you were supportive or you just called me unrealistic or whatever, but I just want to see that happen so I can add light years to my Twitter name.
I think I said at the time that neither team would do it, but now I think one team would and one team maybe would.
God.
Philly, absolutely. Like, Ben Simmons is widely available, and given the names being discussed in conjunction with him, yes, they would give up Ben Simmons for Dame. They tried to for James Harden.
Yeah.
Like, they would absolutely do it for Dame. And they have most of their own picks. They owe top 6 protected to OKC in 2025 from the Al Horford trade, but otherwise they have all of their own picks. So they can trade, I mean, it's 28 this year, but they can trade, 2023, 2027. They can do picks ups in 22, 24, 26. They have Matisse Thybulle, they have Shake Milton, they have Tyrese Maxey, they have G League MVP Paul Reed. So they have some intriguing young guys. They have picks. They have Ben as a centerpiece, or you can either trade Ben right to Portland if Neil is like, I want to pretend that we're gonna compete for the playoff spot, but really we're gonna win 28 games. Ben Simmons is perfect. Or you can do a 3-team deal where you trade Ben somewhere else. The assets that you get for Ben, you reroute to Portland, and then you also send, Maxey and whatever, that and all the picks that way. So
so let's bring back New York into the equation.
Okay.
For Ben Simmons specifically.
Sure. Okay.
What would the Knicks give up for Ben Simmons that would then be rerouted to Portland?
Oof. They would not be on my. They would not be the first team I would call if I'm Philly to get assets. I would call Minnesota probably first, and then Cleveland. Because I don't know what it could. I don't know why the Knicks would want Ben Simmons in the first place.
because they want a point guard, and maybe that's Tom Thibodeau.
He's not a what? Ben Simmons is not a, like he and Julius Randle would be such a bad fit together.
I'm just saying Tom Thibodeau loves his defense, and Ben Simmons under Tom Thibodeau would be very much well, he would be up to par. Let's just put it that way.
That it might be, yeah. And I mean Minnesota too. It's like who, if they're not going to trade Anthony Edwards,
which they won't for Ben Simmons, they might for Dame Lillard.
Right. But then a Dame D'Angelo Russell backcourt.
Oh God, yeah.
With Karl Anthony Towns in the middle, your defense, they're the peak. They would never get higher than 28th in defensive rating.
Yeah, I actually kind of think about it now. I wouldn't mind. That's all out offense. That's a team that averages 130 in the regular season. I would probably go for it.
It'd be fun as hell to watch, but. So I mean I think that's the idea.
Yeah.
If Portland doesn't want Ben, I think you could send him to one of these other teams that have expressed interest. But I mean, if Minnesota is not willing to give up Edwards, does Malik Beasley, Jarrett Culver, Josh Okogie, Jaden McDaniels, who is good, but yeah, and then multiple picks as well, plus what Philly sent picks wise and Maxey.
That's the picks is what I'm thinking. Like,
yeah,
and that's by the way, that's also why I brought up New York. My apologies for not presenting it all throughout, because you wouldn't have to take back contracts necessarily. The Knicks have a ton of cap space that could absorb Ben Simmons immediately, which means you wouldn't have to take on like a lot of money in Portland. You would just basically tell New York, look, we don't care about guys like or established guys. We will take Emmanuel quickly, like we'll take Obi Toppin, for example, quickly and Toppin, and then a lot of your draft picks for Ben Simmons. Like so let's say Philly gives up all the picks that you talked about, right? And then you reroute Ben to a place that has a lot of draft picks, and then those are rerouted to Portland. What could Portland end up with? Like 7 or 8 draft picks?
Yeah, well, picks plus pick swaps, probably even more.
Oh my. See, that's what I'd be looking at.
Yeah. I think Philly would have to send the 3 firsts and 3 pick swaps.
Yeah. And then whatever you can get for Ben in terms of draft picks, which are then rerouted to Portland.
Right.
Under the assumption that the Blazers are fully aware that this is a full-on rebuild.
Yes, which I don't know would be the case. But.
Right. Could you sell that to the Portland fan base without getting a name back? Oh, of course. Like if there's a pick included in this year's draft, you would get a name back this year. Of course, that's fair.
Well, that's what I'm worried about with O'Shea. Like, would he prefer to get Ben Simmons back
because he's a name?
Sell, yeah.
I will never understand GMs who operate under that, like the whole. Like I bring it up because it's relevant, because we know that there's this history of executives that think in terms of PR and names, and sometimes it's ownership telling them get a name back. I will never understand NBA franchises who insist on thinking in that capacity. Like if the best deal you can get back is like raw draft picks, go for it. Like why not?
Yeah.
If it's the best package, yeah. No, I mean. I think that is the framework right there. Him to Philly. Philly give up Ben somewhere else. They attach a ton of draft picks for Dame. And then, yeah, the rerouting. Shit, that could work.
I think Philly, if Portland does decide to quietly shop Dame, listen to Dame offers.
Right.
Maury's going to be on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
And they can at least present a package. And I wrote at Forbes yesterday how all of this stuff with Dame now kind of coming to the surface should make Philly even more reluctant to trade Ben until we see what happens with Dame. Because the last thing you want to do is trade for the Sexton Love poo-poo package and then...
Oh, that's not fair. Dame... Sexton is good.
I know. But, like, you know, Kevin Love is not. And
yes.
It makes no sense on this team. But you don't want to trade for that, and then 3 months later, Damian Lillard becomes available, and you're like, well, damn, like we could have had Damian Lillard, but instead. So it wouldn't surprise me if, and this is what I've been saying all along, honestly. I mean, I wrote something for Fansided a couple weeks ago where I said this as well, where knowing all the stuff that was happening with Dame, at least, you know, seeming more frustrated than usual, because he had an interview a couple weeks ago with Haynes during the coaching search where he seemed just like a little more out on Portland than he ever had before.
Right.
And then I hate to bring up Levine, but you know, again, just you don't know what's happening with him. If he renegotiates and extends in the next couple weeks, all right, he's off the table. But if not, he's a free agent 2022. You at least have to, you know, get a sense of where that market is. And then Bradley Beal too. I mean, there was an article from The Athletic in March. It was Jason Quick and Fred Katz about how Damian Lillard and Bradley Beal are like connected. They every time they go play each other, they connect after the game for a couple minutes because they view themselves as counter to this super team trend. They are staying loyal to their respective franchises.
So they should pair up to become a super team.
Well, if Bradley Beal sees what's going on with Dame in Portland, Bradley Beal is a free agent in 2022. So he has control. I mean, Dame's under contract for at least 3 more years. But Beal has control over his future. Maybe he sees, oh, well, what happened here? Like, Dame, you swore you were so loyal to the Blazers. What should I reevaluate my future now?
Yes. And then yes, you should. You probably should.
right. But then again, like Philly could come in and be like, oh, hello, we have Ben Simmons. Would you like to be? Would you be interested in him, or would you be interested in the picks that we can get for him? Like, how can we facilitate Bradley Beal coming to Philadelphia?
By the way, even if Zach LaVine leaves Chicago, I still wouldn't do the Ben Simmons thing.
Yeah, I don't blame you. But again, if you could reroute him to Minnesota, and Minnesota can send you the, you know, I think there are multi-team packages where every team can get what they want, even if it's not the team sending out the star gets Ben Simmons in return.
Right. By the way, I just want to shout out Stephen No, formerly of The Athletic. He actually did a piece detailing how it would be possible for the Bulls to not only sign Lonzo Ball, but also renegotiate and extend Zach LaVine, which was very interesting because that opportunity is actually feasible with some recent development into Zach's view of Thaddeus Young. So go check out Stephen No, N-O-H, at Twitter.
So I have 2 wildcard teams before we get going in terms of, again, I don't know.
Are you going to beat my wild card Hornets?
In terms of realism, maybe. I don't know. I don't know if these teams...
Oh, thank you. Wow.
Well, I don't know if these teams would... One of them, at least, would see themselves on this timeline to, again, where the Hornets, like, should just be happy with LaMelo and ride this thing out. But the Pelicans,
yes,
given all the stuff with Zion this offseason, where there's already some smoke about him being unhappy, the Pelicans have a ton of draft picks from the Drew Holiday trade, from the Anthony Davis trade. You're not giving up Zion, because the entire point is to pair Zion and Dame. Would you give up Brandon Ingram?
If push came to shove, I probably would. I would probably feel forced to.
Yeah.
But I will say this. There's a reason that I don't want to split up Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum in Boston, because I think that is a long-term duo that play, you know, 2 wing positions, which we've seen in the NBA is so key. I'm very close to sharing that same opinion of Brandon Ingram and Zion Williams, knowing full well that Zion isn't a wing, but he's a basketball player. I don't know what the hell he is as a position. Like, he starts at the 4, but he's fluid, right? But Ingram to me remains one of the most underappreciated players in the NBA. He really does. I understand that he didn't make the All-Star team this year. I understand that he isn't Zion. But I almost think that Zion's presence is working against him a little bit, because it's just Zion is so ridiculously good at that age that when you put it into contrast of Ingram, you just go, well, Ingram is sort of nice, I suppose. No, he's really good. I mean, I would try my damnedest if I'm New Orleans to keep Ingram around and then just tell Portland, look, we have Steven Adams, we have Eric Bledsoe, which are the crap contracts you need to match this thing. Take every pick you want. Take every young guy you want. Jackson Hayes, Kyra Lewis, Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Go nuts. Fleece us. That's fine. Yeah. Ravage us. It's fine.
Right.
And just leave us B.I., Zion, and Dame. We're good. Yeah.
Right? I mean, that's at least you. If you're Portland and you are approaching this from the perspective of we don't want win now guys back, we are fine doing a hard reset. New Orleans can put together a pretty interesting offer.
They can.
Like, if you're not including Brandon Ingram, you can't beat Philly's Ben Simmons offer if Portland wants to stay somewhat competitive. But if they don't care about that, then the Ben Simmons offer doesn't do as much for them, and all of a sudden New Orleans is probably in the lead.
Yeah. Well, it should be noted that Brandon Ingram is only 23 years old, and he'll be 24 by start of the next season. So he's still someone you can build around. I mean, that shouldn't be forgotten in the grand context of things, of course. But yeah, I would definitely make a concerted effort if I'm New Orleans in trying to retain Ingram, because he's such a valuable piece. Can you imagine just him basically feasting off of the attention that Dame and Zion will get in pick and rolls?
Yeah. Maybe the three of them together could be really, really good.
That could be a finals team. I'm not even trying to be cute when I say that. I mean, that could be guys, ring chasers could come after that team. Like, we'll sign them in. Sure.
Yeah.
That's fine. Like, we'll get there. That's a low-key finals team right there. Just offensively speaking, they could be so potent.
Yeah, and beyond all of their own first-round picks, the Pelicans have 2022, 22, and 24 firsts from the Lakers, 25, 27 from Milwaukee, a 2023 first-round swap with the Lakers, 2024 first-round swap with Milwaukee, 2026 first-round swap with Milwaukee.
Oh, what's the latest they had with the Lakers? 2023?
24, but they could choose 25 instead.
That would be interesting.
Yeah, because LeBron's going to be
a
lot older then. AD,
hell, even AD's going to be past 30 at that point. And if they do lock up Dennis Schroeder to like 20 plus million a year and lose that cap flexibility moving forward, the Lakers could be awful by then. Awful.
Yeah, by 25 especially, yeah.
Yeah.
It comes down to, if you're Portland, can you wait it out that long if that's like one of your main prizes from this trade?
But that's the discussion. They should think long term.
Right. So my other wild card team is Indiana.
Yes,
because they have so many guys on these medium-sized contracts. It'd be really easy for salary matching purposes to come up with a trade.
Yeah.
So what if you do? I mean, I think Sabonis would have to be the one going out.
Right, for sure.
But Sabonis, LeVert, or Sabonis and Brogdon, and just every pick.
And then you can reroute Brogdon and Sabonis.
Yeah, Sabonis is young enough, right?
Well, he's 25, but he's a year older than Brandon Ingram. So if we're applying the logic of Ingram being a win now player, you could make the argument Sabonis is the same. But I catch your drift, and plus Sabonis is on a cheap ass contract, so he would be very attractive in the trade market for teams. So if you would
3 more years.
Yeah, exactly. So if you were to reroute him, you would get a ton of value back.
Yeah, I would think so. It looks like, Indiana has all of its first-round picks moving forward.
So Dame would take Brogdon's spot. You would keep Turner. You could just slide T.J. Warren into the 4 as that bubble scorer. You would still have LeVert possibly. Yeah, because if you trade Brogdon and Sabonis, yeah, you would have LeVert feasting off that attention. Maybe you actually re-sign Doug because he would make sense on that team now. You still have Jeremy Lamb coming off the bench. Justin Holiday brothers. Yeah. Maybe you even re-sign CJ McConnell as Dame's backup point guard, which would be...
And they have 13 this year, right? The number 13 pick? Yeah.
Yeah.
So not number 4, but still a lottery
No, so they
pick.
still get a lottery pick. Right. So they get the pick this year, picks in the future, and then whatever they get if they decide to reroute, Sabonis and Brogdon. Like Brogdon you could reroute Brogdon to Philly.
Yeah.
In a larger Ben Simmons trade, for example, as well.
All for that, please God.
Yeah. Like you could do so many things here. I love that idea. Plus, this is what I'm talking about because the Pacers are not going to be on Dame's list. Like, let's not kid ourselves. No. This is what I'm talking about. This is what I like. A team that isn't really associated with getting these guys who comes in out of nowhere and goes, you know what? Damn it, we're in play. We want this guy too. We're not just going to sit there and go, please, sir, can I have some more porridge after guys have gone to the big markets? No, I want the small markets to come in and say, F you, 2 of our representations are in the NBA Finals right now. Screw everybody, we're here. I want that.
Yeah, and like the Pacers are very much in need of a consolidation trade or just to shake things up.
Very much so.
I mean, a lineup with Warren and Turner as your front court, Dame. Honestly, if I'm Indiana, I'm saying you take Sabonis because we think he has the highest trade value, and fine, we can live with the Warren Turner front court anyway. And then take your pick of Brogdon or LeVert. We don't.
Right.
Either one, like whichever one you prefer, that's fine. Because a Lillard Brogdon would actually fit pretty well together.
That would fit even better. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah, like if I'm Indiana, I probably prefer giving up Sabonis and LeVert.
Of course, but you don't know. You give them their choice, of course.
Right. But I mean, I don't know. I think Indiana could at least cobble together an offer that should make Portland think.
I would agree. And Sabonis, like, who would not love Sabonis? Who would not in the NBA be interested in trading for Sabonis at that age and that contract?
Does Nate Duncan run an NBA team yet?
Oh God, let's hope not.
Whichever team he is working for, that team would not want Sabonis. But yeah, I mean, most.
Hi, teams... Nate. Would you like a good player? No.
But I mean, otherwise, like, yes, he's on $19.8 million for the next 2 years, 20.7 in 23-24. He's young, he's productive. So even if Portland wants to pretend to contend or not contend, but like stay relevant for a little while, all right, keep Sabonis for a year, or as you said, reroute him elsewhere and get even more for him. But I don't know. And then Dame's still coming to the East, coming to a team that has talent.
A team that could be loaded, man.
Yeah,
they're only giving up 2 rotation players.
Right. I don't know that they beat Brooklyn or Milwaukee, but they're at least like not a fringe playoff team if they stay healthy.
I mean, again, when you look at it, it's 2 starters that go out and it's replaced on the court. Like, because one thing is draft picks is basically a currency. Like in terms of on-court value, you are taking an all-star big, and depending on its LeVert or Brogdon, of course, Brogdon is an all-star caliber player, so that matters. But you're getting an MVP caliber player back. And that is that's worth it. That upgrade is just that much. That's the toughest thing in the NBA. It's to like get a star to go from star to superstar. This trade does that. You get that tier 1 clear-cut superstar guy in. And you only relinquish 2 players. That's the on-court product would be insane. Because you can keep Doug, you can keep TJ McConnell, you can actually go out and even, hell, like the non-tax MLE, right?
Yeah, they should.
Boom. That's another almost $10 million player per year right there. And then comes the rings chasers.
right?
That's not bad, Bryan.
Thank you. All right.
Yeah.
I feel good.
Good. You should.
I feel good about it.
Well done.
Yeah.
Well done. Small mortgage, which I support. And I think you also make Caitlin Cooper very, very happy.
No, she hates these fake trade rumors, so we'll definitely tag her. We'll